Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott, back again for another episode of the Nolecast. Bud, got a Wake preview to put on tonight. We'll be talking about that, a couple other things. Want to always thank our sponsors. I'm doing a little something in Charlotte tomorrow night. Part of it is bringing a couple bottles of Tarpon Cellars. So had
Nice.
a little bit of the cab left over from shindig in February, but went up, grabbed a little white at the store up the street. Always a fantastic wine. Longtime sponsor of the Nolecast, tarponcellars.com. Coupon code Nolecast. Just a couple of Seminoles making a name out in wine country and a longtime sponsor, partner, and driving force behind the podcast. So big thanks to them.
Congrats to you, by the way, on the Battle's End cracking 1,000 members. I saw that on social media.
Yeah, been a good week. We're about 1,150 at this point, but
Look at that.
Plugging away at it, man. Definitely.
That's once it hits that critical mass. There's a good article on.
I think Dave Clausen might have signed up last night, but
I saw those quotes.
I'm not sure. Those were strong. Very much directed at Mike and his staff, but that was a nice quote.
There's no doubt about it. Good article on the Technicum. I'll send it to you. I think it's like a tech blog. I actually don't know what it is, but I read the article. It's called 1,000 True Fans.
Oh,
have you read this?
Oh, this has been a driving force of mine since you and I started the Nolecast.
Yeah,
1,000 True Fans. Absolutely.
Great. Okay, I didn't know you had read it, but it's really good. Maybe I'll link it in the show notes, or I'll put it in the live chat. Jay Robbins said, "What did Clausen say?" He basically said that people don't respect Mike Norvell as like a genius play caller, basically like one of the most underrated play callers out there. Got to spend a lot of time with him. I think Memphis played Wake in the Birmingham Bowl, perhaps it was. And so he got to spend some time with him that week and had a bunch of respect for him. And also just really likes the guy. And also said that Florida State, their collective has their act together, but yet they're not reckless with it, basically. And like they do a great job of retention of players. And then he thinks it translates to other players also like in the portal, understanding the opportunities in Tallahassee. It essentially is a rundown, but like they haven't been dumb with it. So I thought that was actually that one part was real compliment to you guys, man.
Yeah, it was nice. Again, directed at Mike and his staff, but very, very nice quote. So there we go.
I'm watching both these games live. Dude, Virginia Tech might be trying to just collect all the targeting fouls on the. They had one, and I hate the targeting penalty. I think it's just a made up nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
They had one tonight that was an old school kill shot. I was like, ooh,
okay,
okay, yeah, just a true freshman safety just lines this guy up and just launches on a slant. It was very much like 2007 Steelers esque. I was like, okay, that's trying to hurt somebody there.
What do you know the score of the State versus Southern game by chance?
I do. It's 34-7 Southern.
Oh, okay. All right.
State has moved the ball effectively a little bit. They've not really finished in the red zone. And dude, Southern's not a bad team when they're not getting overwhelmed on the O line. Like JMU crushed them, but like JMU has real NFL players on the D line.
This is Georgia State. I think 6-1, the best start ever in their program history. So
they are,
coming back to.
I had to lock up Georgia Southern Day on the Cover 3 Locks pod, though. I was like,
I've got friends of mine on both those staffs, and it's interesting. So good for them.
One thing that has not been disappointing, our Prize Picks performance, dude, just continues to roll on. Continues to be a lot of fun. Promo code Nolecast gets you that 100% deposit match bonus for first-time depositors. Play responsibly. I'd like to use Prize Picks to basically have more fun on game day, right? And if you win a little cash, that doesn't hurt either. They are typically late to put up Florida State lines. We do have a couple tonight, though, so we'll go over them. We'll give a pick or two we like, and we'll put out the official Nolecast card on the Nolecast Twitter account. So Jordan Travis, more or less 263.5 pass yards. I don't know why it's defaulting to a different page. Okay. Jordan, more or less half rushing touchdown. Keon Coleman, 63.5 receiving yards. Keon Coleman, half receiving touchdown. more or less, and Trey Benson 70.5 rushing yards, more or less.
Okay.
They're giving us a Keon Coleman number that does not start with an 8 or a 9.
Yeah, I would take those two middle. I would lean over the outer edges. I would stay away from the first one in general. Just let that play out, and yeah, we'll figure out whatever on the last one.
Tend to agree. So I think Dominic Lovett could have a nice game this weekend for Georgia against the Gators. Florida has had problems against slot receivers this year, and that's primarily where UGA likes to play him in the slot. So give those two recommendations now. We'll wait to drop an official card because they just dropped these FSU ones, it looks like, right before we came on the air. So I didn't really have time to do all of the numbers on that. I have a stay away. We've been playing that Oklahoma State back some, but I don't know if I want to play him because Cincinnati's run defense is kind of sneaky good. So with that, let's the chat is agreeing. Take Coleman to have more than 63.5 yards. I do agree, honestly. Like, it's Keon Coleman. Sometimes he could get that one play. So little Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, man. Yeah. One of the programs that kind of Wake, Syracuse, I put in similar, not that they were like devastated by transfers, but I just think maybe a hard time for some of these types of programs to hold players year over year. We'll see whether or not that comes to fruition. But I have a ton of respect, admire Wake. It's a small college. They bought into football in their own unique way, and have probably maximized, and I'm not trying to speak down to anybody, but have probably maximized whatever they could possibly be. I do feel like at Wake, you've got like 2 to 3 year windows where maybe you've got some guys that you've been able to develop and are in the program, and maybe you got fortunate on either a skill receiver here or a quarterback or a special player on defense or something like that, and you can put together a really competitive team in either an ACC conference structure when that existed or otherwise. A long-winded way of saying I don't think this is one of those years. I think Wake's going to struggle a little bit in general moving forward, and I know all the ghost of Wake Forest and the things that have happened when going up there in particular. I just be surprised if this week is one of those times. So
I started the week a little concerned, and then the more I watched Wake and really dug in, I'm coming to you, man. I am. Quick little stats rundown on Wake. Wake is still very much alive for a bowl. They're like 50-50 basically after having a ridiculous win last week over Pitt, where Pitt had 2 personal foul penalties and then their quarterback was running to ice the game. He has the first down locked up and he starts to slide right before the down marker. So they have to punt. And Wake is playing a third-string quarterback who we don't know if he's going to play this weekend. They said that Griffiths returned to practice. Wake does not have to win out to make a bowl. They have to win 2 more games. After FSU, it's at Duke, NC State, at Notre Dame, at Cuse. We are currently, as we record this, watching Cuse lose 32-3 to the Hokies in Blacksburg on a Thursday night. Kind of had a problem there for them. That is off a bye week, so a little disappointing for Cuse, clearly, to put up that kind of effort off a bye week. Anyway, Wake's 4-3. The only, they had one loss that they lost by 14 to Georgia Tech. That was a pretty close game. It was a pick 6 at the end that really kind of blew it open. The Va-Tech game, I honestly think was much closer than the score. It was 30-13. That was like a kick return and another thing. And it was, I think their defense is probably legitimately decent. We'll get into that. Man, I kind of want to start on the offense though. I'm not seeing it. This is not great looking.
Yeah, I think, and this is a Bud Elliott thought that I'm repackaging for my own sake of analysis, so I give you credit. And I think I've only believed it to be more true the more that I've had a chance to look at Wake. Yeah, there might be times where Florida State struggles a little bit, whether it just be, a Saturday night game. Wake, I said this a couple weeks ago after talking to a couple people on the Clemson staff, like Wake is like a legitimate energy vortex, particularly at noon. Like you may start slow. I think the same thing's the case with Pitt is my point here. I just don't know. Both of these offenses are at a place where I'm certainly not encouraging it, not trying to speak it into existence, but yeah, I don't know that you have to come out of the gates at full speed. And, I mean, you may be able to be less than perfect or even less than very good and kind of be able to just make your way through the next 2 weeks because of the offensive limitations of these programs. So
Yeah.
not only am I trying to just go ahead and skip forward through tonight's preview, but I'm trying to do 2 weeks at once. So
I'm a little more worried about Pitt just because it is back-to-back road games. You have the look-ahead factor to Miami. Like Pitt has a little more physicality than Wake does overall, and Wake did beat Pitt. That was look. If the third stringer plays, FSU will crush them. Like I don't have any confidence that Santucci, who's the third stringer, is going to be able to string together, 4 quarters of good play.
Mm-hmm.
Griffiths, the starter, got really dinged up when he went out against the Hokies. If he plays, he has had some good moments this year, and I don't think all of their struggles are on him. There are some real problems that they have, right? So they don't hit explosive plays like at all. Okay. Just not at all. They're outside the top 120 in like all of the explosive metrics. So that's not really great. The run game is kind of the best thing they do, but it's not enough to carry them necessarily. The pass game has been a total train wreck overall. They have not been able to hit the explosive plays that Wake usually hits on the early downs, like off the run fake stuff. People just ain't buying what they're selling this year. Like they just sit on it. Wake had some real losses off last year's team, to your point, that I think really impact where they are right now. They lost a really good receiver, obviously, and then let me pull up I keep season long notes on all 133 teams for research purposes.
Shocking development, yes.
Some of them are better than others. Like if I know they're in the ACC, I have a little better notes. I don't have like great New Mexico notes always, but all right. So for the year, they've lost their offensive lineman Sharp. They've lost receiver Donovan Green, who's pretty huge. And then they've had a bunch of other injuries as well, including, first and second string quarterbacks. And as Sean pointed out in the chat, like last year they had A.T. Perry. Going back to the spring, though, I noticed something about this football team. And I was reading Cam Lemons over at our Wake Forest 24/7 sports site. And he was explaining like how kind of beat up that their O-line got, not injured, but just like taken care of that their O-line got in the spring game. And red flags started going off for me. Alarm bells started going off. And I said, wait a second. It's a Wake team that lost like a 3rd or 4th round pick at D tackle. It's a Wake team that lost their best edge rusher to Oklahoma in the transfer portal. And they lost another guy as well. Let's play the odds game. What are the odds that Wake Forest, with the way they recruit, and we know defensive line recruiting translates heavily to defensive line success. Sometimes it's, guys just get developed, but usually it's like, oh, the guy that's really, really freaking like big and also like faster than you expect him to be is good at defensive line. Oh, shocking. I'm like, what are the odds that they have a bunch of just new studs to roll in? And what are the odds that they just have offensive line problems? And I think the way this season has played out, they have some offensive line problems and some offensive personnel problems that Clausen just has trouble coaching around. There are some of these offenses, man, that are kind of like, I don't want to call them scams because that's not it. I think it's freaking brilliant what they do actually with the personnel they have and what they do. But like there are certain offenses where you find an inefficiency or two that you can exploit and you spam the hell out of it, right? And you see those offenses and yet they hit a critical, like there's a sort of like a boiling point theory. If you go up against a certain level of athlete, it just like they can't spam that all day. Kansas, when they played Texas, I talked about this on Cover 3. Like, Kansas does a great job running all their stuff against the Big 12, and I think that staff is freaking geniuses. And the last 2 times they played Texas, they've lost by 40 a pop because the speed differential is just a different level of athlete. And I don't think Texas is like super motivated to play Kansas. Old Dominion kind of fits into this. Utah State, if you watch the Mountain West, like some of the teams running this old like Baylor Bryles stuff kind of fits into this type thing. Wake, to me, has real offensive line problems. They are 119th in pressures allowed. They're 93rd in blown block rate in the run. They're 120th in blown block rate, include like pass and run, which should tell you how bad their pass blocking rate is. I mean, it's exceptionally bad. Almost 10% of their dropbacks end up in scrambles, which is definitely not ideal. They are 129th in sacks per dropback. They are literally dead last in the country in sack rate on standard downs. I mentioned they're not hitting those explosive plays on early downs. It's not for lack of holding the ball. They're clearly holding the ball, waiting for them to open up, and they're still ain't happening. 119th in passing down sack rate allowed, so you can get to them on third down. 103rd in pressure rate allowed. And I think it gets worse, actually, because, I mean, they're fifth in the country in average starting field position for the offense. Like, this thing could be materially worse if the defense had not forced turnovers and set them up in really great position, right? Oh, also, teams play a ton of man coverage against them. I think that's one of the reasons why they're struggling so much this year, is that teams just line up and say, hey, we're going to play man against you until you can prove you can beat it consistently. Can you? And the receivers are decent. They're not amazing. And for the most part, they can't beat good man coverage. So, look, man, if you're a defensive lineman, it's a good day to go get some sacks.
Good day to go. Pad your professional resume.
If it's not Griffiths, I think you're going to see a hell of a lot of quarterback run and just get the hell out of there type thing. They did not – last week, they didn't really run their offense. Like, I don't know what that was, but it wasn't what they normally run. There's a lot of, like, design QB run. I don't think they trust the third stringer to operate it. So if he has to play, I do think – I mean, it's not great. Sir Nasty Nate says, but can their offensive line hold? That's the real question. That actually is a pretty important question.
It is an important question. Right? A bunch of different comments previously about like the rivalry aspect of this. Not so much rivalry, but just, Wake winning some games. And whenever Wake managed to beat you at Florida State, it's got a little bit of a particular sting to it. Although it's by no means it's a once off. They've done it many times over the past 15 years or so. But I don't know that this is a game that like anybody on that roster really like circles per se, you've got a lot of transfers. It's not like, I mean, obviously you lost last year and that was very frustrating, but I don't know that this is a team that like this team has been itching to get back at or something like that. I've never got that impression, put it that way. So probably more of something in the fan base and maybe in some of the coaches than particular player motivated or player expectations.
Yeah, totally agree. Doesn't mean you have to come out and have a poor effort, obviously, right? Like you only get 12 of these a year. You'd like to have a good effort in every one. Is there a real reason to believe this is going to be one of your 12 best games of the year? Maybe, maybe not. But I think this should be a continued game of low points allowed. Like you should hold them to a single-digit number or low teens, barring a short field type score, honestly. Like, 7, 10, 13 type thing maybe. They're also really quite bad in the red zone. I mean, 133rd in red zone touchdown rate. You know how many teams we have in the FBS this year? 133. So that is dead. That's DFL. Dead last in the nation. And now, granted, like some of that's a little random, but when you pair that with how bad are the O-line stats? Can they run the ball in short yardage? How much havoc are they giving up it does correlate. Like if you're a really bad team like that, you're not going to be a great red zone team. So maybe you could tell me their true talent level is more like the 90th or whatever. But from what I've watched, yeah, um, they're a frustrating watch on offense if you're a Wake fan for sure.
Yeah,
especially with what you've seen. Prior.
Kevin asked a great question with a particular amount of snarkiness. Are we worried about having to go up against one of the fastest growing brands in the country? Yeah, that's very funny. Very funny. I don't think that's quite played out in any metric that could be found this year, but it's good. As another listener or commenter, Shenanigans said, went from 10 fans to 20 fans, 100% growth year over year, which when the pie's small, you can grow it a little bit quicker. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Let's go ahead and thank our friends at the Legendary team, Legendary Home Loans. That's Chad and Shannon, do a tremendous job. When you're going to purchase a home, it might be kind of stressful, for you. Not the easiest thing to do in the world, and it's going to be your biggest expense of your life up to that point, certainly of every month. Chad and Shannon are there to make it easy for you. 844 FSU loan. I've used it twice. Nolecast listeners have used it well over 500 times now. That's because they just have great customer service, great rates, knowledge of the industry, and they treat everybody, just best they possibly can. So can't recommend them enough. They do a great job for our audience and for all Noles out there. 844 FSU loan is the number to call. You want to talk a little Wake defense?
Wake defense, yes. Stronger side of the ball. Not just kind of what I would consider a average to slightly above average ACC defense, Bud. You're going to be more informed than Wake than I am, but that's just kind of my general perception of them as I look at it. A couple nice players, but again, a unit that that you should do particularly well with, and depending on who's healthy and who can go, not a unit that I could see really matching up with a whole lot of what you have on the outside. But it's just kind of a lazy cut and paste comment when you've got guys like Keon. You're just gonna be able to say that about damn near every team you run up against, certainly in conference play.
I agree with that. I'm actually kind of excited to see the Keon matchup today. Like granted, I think he'll win it, but they had this kid, Kalen Carson, pretty good corner, man. Like, I don't know if he's like a surefire draft guy, but he's covered really well so far this year. So this is gonna be a nice test for Keon, one that I expect him to pass, but I don't think he's just going to like toast him on every single play. Maybe he will, but if I'm Jordan, I'm looking Keon's way pretty early. Obviously, we saw Johnny Wilson go down. You saw Destin Hill go down. I think a lot of our chat has already seen Hakeem out, so that's pretty well known at this point, I think. So, I mean, that's those are a number of your targets, right? Who, I just read the tea leaves. I wouldn't really expect to play. But that means you have some opportunities for some other guys in the receiving core opposite of Keon. Maybe it's nice, Kentron Day or Darion or Jakai. Retention is a good thing, man, because a lot of you've retained a lot of talent on this roster who I think, do we super trust them? I don't know. Would they start at other programs? Yeah, absolutely they would.
Yeah.
Offensive line, saw a bunch of stuff get mixed up last week. Think you got Byers. Bless. That's kind of what you want there. Maurice. I think they're going to be healthy enough on the O-line to have a decent day on the offense at least. I would anticipate that this offense is able to have some short fields against Wake, either via stops or short yards, turnovers, whatnot. Wake does have some interesting guys though. Like they play pretty smart defense for the most part, and yet they've had some issues. So on the year, they give up a lot of explosive plays, a lot, but they do a decent job on stopping you down to down, which, hey, FSU's offense gets stopped down to down, probably a little more than you want. And, you you still are really, really good because you hit explosive plays quite a bit. Pass D for them is better than it like kind of seems, but their run D actually has been legitimately pretty good. You know, we'll see. Sorry. Oh, okay. No, nothing. Nothing. I thought we had to do some kind of emergency show. We do not.
Good deal.
They're not real big up front. They do shoot gaps pretty well. I think when they don't get there is when some of their explosive runs have been given up on the year. So could be a good day for for Trey or Rodney or somebody to hit an explosive run on them. Could also be a really nice tight end day. Honestly, I was hoping to see Jaheim Bell on Prize Picks. FSU's clearly looking to get the ball to him more. They thought he had some quality blocks there, right? Against Duke, excuse me. So this is probably not going to be a go out and score every single drive type thing. I don't think it's a game where you're going to hang 50. But we could sit here and talk about, O-line got hurt last game and receivers got hurt last game and stuff. And if you still got Keon, you still got Jordan, you still got 5 of the 7 O-linemen you feel pretty good about playing. I mean, it's an ACC game. Mike's offenses typically roll out and score more than 30. Just inevitably, he's going to find ways. It seems like they come at you in waves, right? That's. One other thing I want to note. Just as I think their offensive scoring in the red zone, their lack of it is unsustainable, there's no real reason for me to believe that Wake Forest should be 5th in the country in goal-to-go rate touchdowns allowed. Like, I do not see any reason for this defense to be that damn good in the red zone, right? Red zone touchdown rate allowed 7th in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we have is, let's play a game. Who's best quarterback Vanderbilt's played so far? Pitt's back up, Hokie's back up, Cade Klubnik, kid at Georgia Tech, Haynes King, Old Dominion's quarterback, who I think might have been Hayden Wolf in that game, but they rotate a bunch, and I don't actually know who it was. Vanderbilt or Elon.
Okay. So I think you subbed Vanderbilt for Wake at the beginning part of this.
Okay. As
you threw that out there. But yeah, that was a wildly impressive knuckle crack, by the way.
Thank you.
That's you're not playing around. Yeah, best quarterback, because I kept sitting there waiting for you to list Georgia Tech or UGA's kid when you said Vanderbilt originally. But yeah, no real contender at that list, in my opinion. I'm certainly not giving you Haynes King at Georgia Tech or too many other options. So
yeah, all of those offenses pretty much are offenses that either logically make sense they would struggle themselves in the red zone. Georgia Tech, because they don't really have a good O-line at all. ODU, which is really spammy. Just it's kind of some of that Baylor stuff. And if they can't throw those go balls after spreading you out, you sort of see a little of that. Pitt. Oh, lights turned out.
Yeah,
I think the lights might turn out for Wake Forest being a top 10 red zone defense in the country in this weekend. I don't know. I look at the stats. I watch the stuff. It's like, I don't really see any real reason why this is a top 10 red zone defense. You want to tell me like top 40 or something? All right, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you got some quick defensive linemen causing problems. Secondary is certainly not bad, but I don't know about that.
Yeah. Just speaking from a broad perspective, would encourage you to partner with our friends at Congruity, who can broadly address your business, look at any kind of opportunities for improvement, search for optimization. Congruity has been fantastic for the Humble Nolecast and many other Seminole affiliated businesses. CongruityHR.com is the website. CongruityHR.com/Noles is the FSU specific page. And as always, welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to put you in touch with our man, Matt Lewis. Yeah, speaking broadly, I would hope that you use this opportunity to try to develop your run game. Yeah, I don't, look, you're never going to be able to line up against the Georgias, Bamas, Michigans of the world, etc., and run, but you can continue to try to find whatever it is your kind of ultimate identity is in your run game. Try to figure out what you can do with this personnel, optimize this personnel. Uh, it's a good opportunity to do that, in my opinion. Here, you never want to play like to protect yourself, but I don't know that you need to open up Jordan to a whole lot here in this game. If you can get
Agreed.
him through this game at Pitt and have a Jordan that can just go out there and pull the plug and leave everything out on the field for the Miami game, that's feeling like if you can get through that, then maybe you can get through the regular season. Obviously, that's being very presumptuous at this point, but it is appearing as though it's going to boil more and more down to that game. So, just speaking loosely there, I think you can establish your run. You can lean on some of the absurd skill that even with some of the names that you mentioned could be missing from a skill position standpoint. You're still going to be able to go out there and beat Wake on the perimeter. So curious to see what the offense looks like, but I think you can keep it simple and incorporate your tight ends and be pretty dominant in this game. So
I tend to agree with you there. We're going to see how well Wake's backers cover. We're going to see how well their corners other than Carson cover. So I'm curious to see how it's going to look. Right. I do think though. Do you need style points? Not if you go undefeated. I don't know if you saw the video I put out. The odds of everybody going undefeated, like having 5 undefeated Power 5 champs, is about 5,000 to 1.
Yeah,
so
that would not be
high.
my concern. My concern would be that a team would get Georgia in the SEC game, and that's where you might get in a little bit of trouble.
If you're a one-loss team, you mean?
Even if you're undefeated, even if you're undefeated,
dude, you think one-loss Georgia could get in over undefeated FSU? I don't think so.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, cool. I think a one-loss Bama who beats Georgia would get put in as well. Well, I mean, it's maybe I'm being crazy conspiratorial. I do though. I do.
All right, so I'm just trying to think who their wins are over. Like Florida, if FSU goes undefeated, UF will not be ranked for either, right?
Georgia's wins, Georgia's
that's
going
what
to
I'm saying. Like
Georgia's going to have
resumes
to get benefit of the doubt and the fact that they're 2-time national champion, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, no, they're not going to have any wins to point to. They're not. I'm not arguing with you there. My argument is that if Bama comes in and gets that, yeah, I'd be worried. I'd be worried about how you've looked throughout the course of the year. Yeah,
I would have zero worries about a 12-1 non-champ Georgia going over an undefeated FSU.
Okay.
Like I don't think they could do that because they know Bama's down too. Like Bama has a 10-point loss at home to Texas. And then your wins are what? Like we're assuming that the loss is to Bama in the title game, right? If it's to LSU, then obviously no argument because FSU smoked the team that would have beaten you. Yeah, I don't know, man. I that's an interesting scenario, but I don't really think it's like what are Georgia's odds of winning the SEC versus making the playoff? Right? I mean, we can kind of compare there. That's
yeah, I don't know that this is like the best metric, but I saw where what ESPN had I think Georgia and Alabama at the same metric, the same percentage to win the SEC.
Yeah, I don't think that's what. All right, so Vegas has it Georgia minus 145 to win the SEC, and Georgia minus 190 to make the playoff. So like somewhat more likely to make the playoff than the SEC, but I think a lot of that's factoring in the one-loss stuff, right? Personally, I still think the odds that we have 2 SEC teams in are really pretty low. Personally, and if we had like 4 undefeateds and that one-loss scenario, I think FSU's resume is going to be a hell of a lot better than what what Oklahoma has, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because Oklahoma doesn't play Kansas State. So OU's schedule is basically like it's Texas twice,
Right.
which is impressive, but probably less impressive the second time you beat them. And then, it's Ark State, SMU, Tulsa, Cincy, Iowa State, Texas, like we talked about, UCF, Kansas, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, BYU, TCU. If we was an Oklahoma podcast, I'd be a little more worried. I think.
No, it's good points. Good points. And maybe I'm just I don't know.
Maybe we do need style points then.
Seems sometimes I'm of the opinion you might need. Logic, as you just dictated over the last 3 minutes, would perhaps insinuate or point to the fact that you don't. But yeah. Anyways, this is
it's fun.
Rambling one-off here.
I think this is something that like maybe a lot of fans haven't thought about.
Yeah.
Let me see. An interesting question here. Blue Chicken says, is anyone FSU staff going to get them caught up in the Michigan stuff? Well, FSU's made like almost zero staff changes, right? They lost Kenny. Nobody to my knowledge who they brought in has been associated with Michigan in any way. We got a whole lot of people asking, do you think FSU steals signs? Every team out there tries to steal signs. Not every team is running a huge operation where they are sending people to 40 or 50 games in a season. That, like, I talked to a lot of coaches. Like, we definitely know about teams that like send people to opposing people's like facilities to try to video stuff, like from parking garages, try to hack their digital stuff, all that kind of stuff, or stuff you hear about. Definitely, like, I'll tell you once we get off the air. But like, there's a coach we kind of knew was going to get fired, but like a guy that he fired went and spent the week with another coach's staff, and then that team, had 700 yards on them and got the guy fired, or about 700. So okay. Look, first of all, I'm not really sure what's going to happen to Michigan anyway. I don't know that there's actually a real penalty for that. Do I think good teams steal signs? Yes, I do, and they should. Not the legal way, obviously. But didn't Mike work for Todd Graham?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Todd Graham is a notable guy who's like very well known for stealing signs. You can, like, there's the famous clip of Mike Leach giving him the signs.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to steal them. So, look, doesn't FSU shut out like every opponent in the second half? Basically, you'd hope that they have really good people like watching down there during the first half, figure it out, right? Like, that's just the thing you do. Stephen Godfrey's article in the Washington Post, recalls like 2 years ago, he sees a coaching buddy of his, and they in the same elevator on the way down from halftime. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing up there?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just stealing signs today. I'm the guy that decodes them, and then we're gonna go talk about them at halftime and use them in the second half." So yeah, guys, sign stealing is a big part of the sport. It doesn't give you an enormous edge because the other people can get your stuff too, but it's not nothing. So yeah, for sure. What about one loss Michigan, Ohio State, and undefeated champ? Look, guys, I don't think undefeated Power 5 champ is going to get left out of the playoff in favor of a one-loss non-champ. Okay, we've never had voting really anywhere close to that. Is it possible? Sure, it's entirely possible. JJ McCarthy. Did JJ McCarthy get that much better? I think he actually did. Yeah. Last year he was number 1 in the nation in play action or quarterback rating off play action, but like 55th without play action. And this year I think he's first. So a decent little jump in just regular drop back passing and killing it. So yeah, that's pretty solid.
2-score game in the State versus Southern. So
okay.
moving back. Interesting.
37-21. Georgia Southern does not have a whole lot of defense. So
up to 37. Okay.
But they don't have a whole lot of defense. They
just kicked a field goal since my app is updated. So okay.
This running back they got, man, is pretty good. This Jalen White kid for Southern is a good back. Oh, we didn't talk a ton should probably note, I do think that Wake Forest, like the backs, they run hard. Like
Mhm.
they're good backs. They'll I don't think this is going to be a thing where you get 17 tackles for loss. I do think a good defensive effort for FSU is 10 plus tackles for loss, though, honestly,
Yeah.
in this game. I mean, Pitt had 9, Old Dominion had like 12.
The Claiborne kid at running back's good for them. Kind of it seems like
Yeah.
Wake always has a little bit of a fire hydrant type running back on their roster, and that kid's, I don't
They
know,
100% do.
5'9", 205 or whatever, just kind of a little stout guy.
We did
Be
not get a
aggressive with
prediction
it.
yet. The chat wants a prediction, which we will give.
Prediction.
But we need to talk
What's the
about
spread here?
The spread is 20.5 and I think 49.
Okay.
I think that reflects how many tackles for loss Wake has been giving up. And FSU has a pretty legit defensive front. If you're Pat Payton, if you're Jared Verse, you're seeing dollar signs.
Farmer.
Love
it. Fisk.
Maybe we get a big Fisk sack game, dude.
Yeah, Fisk this could be a highlight for Mr. Fisk.
I could see it. What's the most FSU tackles for loss they've got in a game this year? It's got to be Southern Miss, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would think.
Probably. Yeah. All right, I will go. I'm going to go 35-7.
Okay.
I do think that Florida State's defense should dominate this Wake offense. This is by far the best defense Wake has seen, other than the Clemson game, and that was before the quarterback got dinged up. So, I think you should be able to hold them to something pretty low, and get some good field position off it too.
Yeah, I like to try to go before you, bud. 40, 41-10, 42-10, somewhere in that area. So,
yeah, and that's now, in your opinion, is that like FSU comes out and plays this A game, or is that more like they get stops and field position type scores?
I think they get stops, but they just continue to beat on them a little bit. You get to play some of the younger kids. You just have a higher level of athlete, and the deeper you get into the roster, the more disparity there is at this point with Wake. So, I don't think it's a beautiful masterpiece by any means, but yeah, I think you get into the low 40s and keep them somewhere around 10.
I think we have some congruity on that prediction.
There you go. Always want to thank our friends at Madso Township, Charlie Park, fantastic spot. One of my quickly becoming my favorite places to go when I'm in Tallahassee. I got a note from the hotel that I stay at that I'm like in my 50s of nights stayed in Tallahassee at a hotel. So I'm starting to really learn the landscape down there at a level that never have previously. And there's no greater option than Charlie Park, right up there by the AC Hotel, Cascades Park, fantastic place. Take the elevator up. There you are in a place unlike any other to be found in Tallahassee. So Charlie Park rooftop bar. Big thank you to Matt Thompson and his team for the constant level of support that they've given us ever since we first started talking about this project in the middle of the 2000 teens.
Absolutely. Madso meet up for the Miami game? Maybe so. That'd be cool. I will. That could be possible. Could we get Tate a screen pass for a 50-yard touchdown? The chat wants to know. I think it's possible. And they want a yards per play prediction.
Yeah, we should bring that back. Let's do
that.
I enjoyed doing that.
All right, so let me think about this. A yards per play prediction. I agree we should have it. I think FSU's goal should be to hold Wake to a yards per play under 3.8. So, if they run 70 plays, like definitely under 300 yards. And for the Noles, let's say a solid 6. I agree with you on maybe the establish the run type stuff. So, 6 or more, under 4 or more, good yards per play goals are are solid.
Yeah.
Or you are going to Pitt. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude.
Headed up to Pitt. I think I'm going to see every game this year but Boston College.
What's the weather? Well, considering FSU played at Boston College, we might just have you go to every game like for forever.
Right. Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, thanks, bud. I not like that at all. Is Brock Glenn healthy again? I think he's on the verge. I don't know if he's fully clear. Coach is pretty honest and upfront about that stuff, and definitely the voice of injury. So
I still don't think he's like ahead of Tate though, as far as like if we want to talk long term, I think we can definitely talk long term.
It's unfortunate for Brock. When at the time that Brock got injured, just one man's opinion, it felt like he was going to be the guy who took the snap in Dublin next year. And it felt like that's the way that this was trending. So it may still be that way, but hate it for the kid. Works real hard. Good dude. Bright future. So
very bright. Yeah, I feel pretty good about this team. Feel good about this coaching staff overall. And defense comes out, dominates Wake like they should. Gives the offense a lot of cracks at it. And
did you see? When coach is funny, it kills me. Did you see Atkins' comment about PFF?
Yes.
He said, "I've got a friend who runs a full-time landscape service, and is a film grader for PFF. So do with that what you want." That's absolutely hilarious.
I told my buddy who's an O-line coach, right? Who what he said?
No.
He's like, man, I freaking love PFF because they say we're the best O-line in the league, and I'm not really sure we're top half. Now, look, overall, like PFF's more right than they are wrong.
Yeah.
On this whole for a season. For an individual game, I don't know. Maybe not.
So there's a question about a TBE tailgate at Wake Forest. There's there's nothing officially or formally the battle's end, but there is a Seminole. I think it's the Triad Seminole Club is having a tailgate the morning of. So I'll try to find that website and put it in the YouTube comments if people are looking for them. Before we go, bud, you may recognize these, so I just want to show them off. This is what I got from our time in Tampa.
Oh, dude.
You remember this thing? I saw this thing and I was like, oh.
Yes, sir.
Derek Brooks. Brilliant.
I got something that a good friend of mine and a listener, by the way, sent. Oh, there we go.
I got the Bobby P. Dub and Chris Winkie one too. So
did you take those with you from that day, or did they FedEx?
No, I had to have them ship them up to me.
That's awesome.
wasn't able to get all that much in my.
Shout out Hellquist on shipping them up.
Yeah, brilliant. I had to. I owe somebody a Venmo, so I'll have to go find that.
He was texting me now. He's like, "Hey, who would you take in this Syracuse game?" I was like, "I didn't bet anything in it, man. But like, if I had to, I guess Syracuse. They're losing 35-10. So sorry, Mike. Yeah. Very apologies there for that. Other interesting games. I mean, Miami's got UVA. Florida has Georgia. So we'll see how UF looks there. Interested to see what they look like against good passing offense, because I don't really think South Carolina is, and South Carolina still moves it on pretty well. Tennessee has kind of shown to not be, and pick 6, Georgia Southern 43-21.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's toughy.
That is a tough.
That's good night time.
The chat's saying it's a terrible ball. I'm kind of curious. Oh wow, yeah, that is an exceptionally bad pass. I will concur. Ooh, pretty bad. That's pretty much it. I think just gotta play at least your C game to keep moving on. I think if you played your absolute F game and Wake just played out of their skull, like there's still a good enough coaching staff to pull some kind of miracle if you really play poorly. But
homefieldapparel.com is the website. You can go to the Florida State tab, get a sweet bomber jacket, and many other awesome apparel. Keep them in the back of your mind as Christmas season comes up. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, things like that. They'll certainly have a lot of great deals. And I'd say I'm fond of getting all sorts of people, particularly my mom and now wife, that stuff. Great clothes, great quality stuff. homefieldapparel.com, coupon code NOLCAST23, coupon code NOLCAST23, and save an additional 15%.
All right, man. Enjoy the weekend.
Noon game, you're good for instant?
I can do the instant, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Brilliant. All right, y'all. Hope to see any of y'all up there. I hope to be talking about an 8-0 football team.
Let's do it. See you, man.
Later, bro.